Welcome. In this video, we will discuss about the preamble of India. So we will discuss about this particular feature, the basic feature which has been enshrined in our constitution before the constitution itself starts. So before the part 1 of the constitution begin, we have the preamble of India, and this could be considered as the word eye view of the overall what is constitution is going to give to the Indian citizen. So this is kind of a glimpse into the constitution and what kind of character it will have. So we will make this video in two parts. The part 1 we will deal with the basic ideas of India as a nation, like what kind of characteristic has been envisioned in a preamble for India as a nation. So that will be the part 1. In part 2 we will go further ahead and discuss about the other keywords mentioned in the preamble which has been guaranteed to the citizen of India. So that's how it's gonna be. We will discuss that in detail, and this point is very important from your GS paper 2 perspective. In mains as well as in prelims, such question has been asked. So this is important from your UPSC point of view. So let's start. The first thing that we need to understand is that preamble of India is a brief introductory statement that set out the guiding purpose and principles of the document. So this is the document which will give you what kind of constitution of India is going to be. And it indicates the source from the document which derives its authority. So this is again a very important point for you to remember, that the authority from which the constitution derives its power, it's actually the people of India. So people of India are the one from which the constitution derives its authority, and that is mentioned in the preamble. Apart from that, it also mentions the date on which it is adopted by the Constituent Assembly, which is the 26th November 1949. Now this you must have very recently heard that the 26th November which just went by is celebrated as the Constitution Day. So every year 26th November is celebrated as Constitution Day to commemorate the day on which the Constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. But you should also know that it came into effect on the 26th January 1950, and that is the day we celebrate as the Republic Day of India. So our Republic Day of India is celebrated on 26th January because that is the day when we actually the Constitution of India came into effect and India became the Republic. So this is the basic underlying understanding of preamble. In fact, this is very well defined, and this is something you could quote while writing answer, is that N.A. Pakiwala actually called the preamble as the identity card of the constitution. So how you carry your identity card and it tells where you are from, what is your date of birth. So similarly, the preamble is the identity card to constitution. It will define what exactly the constitution is going to be. These are the basic details. Now let's go ahead and look at the text of the constitution. So this is something you must have already seen in your NCERTs. So when the index begin, you must have seen it printed alongside, and this is the preamble of our constitution. And now look at the wording. It says we the people of India, which means that the people is the authority through which it is deriving its power. Having solemnly resolved constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So this is the nature of our nation. Our nation is going to be sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. So that's the characteristic of our nation, and it will secure to its citizen justice of social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, as well as equality of status and opportunity. And by ensuring all these things which has been provided to the citizen through the constitution, it will ask the citizen to have fraternity, which means that they should have the feeling of brotherhood amongst them, and ensure the dignity of individual and unity and integrity of the nation. So this is the overall, you can say, the wording of the constitution. In this video we will focus on the keywords. So what you are actually seeing in the bold letter, we will discuss about them. We already discussed that the authority is the people, and we have already discussed that it was enacted on the 26th day of November, which is celebrated as Constitution Day. So these other keywords are the one which we're going to discuss. So in the part 1 of the video, we will focus on this section. These 5 words will define what kind of a nation India is, and then in the next video we will discuss rest of them. So let's start. From the glimpse perspective, just see this is going to be sovereign, socialist, democratic, republic, justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. So we will discuss about all these keywords in detail in the upcoming slides. Just remember, these are very important for your examination. Like there has been question asked in the prelims examination, as well as they have kind of a base on which you can answer the mains answer. So these are something you could quote. So let's start and move ahead. The first thing we will consider is the sovereign. So what does sovereign actually means? It implies that India is neither a dependency nor a dominion of any other nation, but an independent state. We are like, before India got independence in 1947, we had been under the rule of British government. And even while the time of Independence Act of 1947 came into picture, we did follow the dominion path. So we became the dominion for the time being of Commonwealth. But eventually, now when this particular constitution was put in picture, it says that India is going to be a sovereign state. What does essentially it means? That no longer it's going to be a dependency of any other country, neither it's going to be a dominion. There is no authority above it, and it is free to conduct its own affairs. So that's the major understanding of sovereign, which means that now as a country, India is free to handle both internal affairs as well as external. So nowhere, no other country could actually interfere in the working of how India is having its external relationship with any other country, for an example, or how it is dealing with the internal matter. In fact, that is something you must have heard a lot when you are when any Indian delegates and go and give speeches on any of the international forum. They say that India is a sovereign country and no other nation should have a say on the internal affairs. So that is something, that is what is being declared in the preamble itself, that India is a sovereign state. Now, from being a sovereign state, India can either acquire a foreign territory or cede a part of its territory in favor of a foreign state. So now this is a point, that because India is a sovereign state, it could either acquire other territory or it could also cede a part of it. For that preference, this is something, it's a homework for you. Go ahead and drop the comment to let me know what was the 100th Constitutional Amendment Act of India was all about. So give me in the comment section what was the 100th Constitutional Amendment Act of India deals with, and why it was related to, because it is a sovereign nation, India could go ahead and do that. So this is something you should understand by the sovereignty, which means the power to take independent decision without the inference. This is again being established in the preamble itself. Now let's move forward and talk about the next keyword which we have in our preamble, which is the socialist. So in the keyword itself, it is mentioned that India is going to be a socialist nation. But the thing that for you to remember is that when the original constitution was came into picture, the word itself was not a part of this preamble, and it was added through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. So it was later added by the Indira Gandhi government that the socialist also become the part of the preamble. Now the thing for you to understand, that instead of the communist socialism, which was practiced in the erstwhile USSR at that time, India actually took the path of the democratic socialism. What does it essentially mean? Is that there would be a mixed economy. Like unlike in what you have in your communist socialism, where there is only the state-owned property, India took the path of democratic socialism, which have both public and private sector, and they coexist side by side. So as of now also you could see that there are certain sectors in which public like the government is very capable of doing things, and then there are certain sectors where private players have actually played a very significant role. So what we have in India is the democratic socialism. Also, the thing for you to remember is that India socialism is a blend of Marxism and Gandhism. So it's not only that India adopted the theory of socialism directly from Marx, but the ideas of Gandhi's socialism also are very deeply rooted in our constitution. In fact, Gandhi's idea of Sarvodaya as well as the idea of trusteeship. Now again, these are the topics which you should know, and you should be aware of that Gandhi proposed the idea of Sarvodaya and trusteeship. In the comment section, don't forget to tell me what do you understand by Sarvodaya and what do you understand by trusteeship. So that's the idea. In our constitution, we have the mix of Marxism and Gandhism socialism. Though after the LPG reform, which is the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, that took place in 1992 after the BOP crisis, there has been a little bit more tilts towards the capitalist economy, but still there are provisions in our constitution which highlights that India is at the core of it is a socialist nation. So this is again, so now we have understood India is sovereign, India is socialist. Now let's move on to the next keyword, which is the secular. Now this is something you must have been hearing in news for quite a while now. If you are reading the editorials, you must have seen that there are lot of articles which says that India's secularism is hurt at its very core. But the idea is, let's try to first understand what kind of secularism is guaranteed in Indian constitution and what kind of secularism our preamble talks about. So first of all, again, like socialists, this was not part of the original document and was added through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. And in India, the concept of secularism is the positive concept, which means that all the religions in our country have the same status and the support from the state. So this is the positive context of the secularism, which is followed in India, is that our country will place all religion at the same place. So unlike, for an example, take a case of France. Over there, the secularism is like that the church should not interfere with the state, and state should also not interfere with the working of the church. So that was the idea of secularism in the France, or what you can call as generally the Western secularism. But in India, what kind of secularism we follow is that our government will make the equal distance from all the religions. So for Indian government, every religion is equal and it will treat them all equally. So the principle we follow over here is equal distance from all religions. So Indian state follow the concept that it's not only that it cannot interfere in the religious institution, for an example, but it can interfere, but it will not discriminate between any religion. So all religions are equal for India, and that's the kind of secularism we have, which is enshrined in our preamble itself. So this is something, again, a very important point which has been highlighted in lot of editorials in present times. So be very confident or be very sure of what kind of secularism which is guaranteed under the Indian Constitution. Now the next topic, again, which is something you must have been hearing about it, like recently there was the World Freedom Report which came in and it placed India at an abysmally low position. So it's more along the line that the freedom in India is threatened, the democratic setup is threatened. But from the UPSC perspective, I will really ask you guys that whenever you are reading about any editorial, be as objective as possible in kind of details you are trying to get from it. So let's now again focus on the word which is mentioned in our preamble. So what is mentioned in preamble is India is a democratic nation. What kind of democratic nation then? India is a representative parliamentary democracy. Now there are three important words. First is the representative. So we know that we have MPs and MLAs who represent us on our behalf in the legislature. So they are the one who actually end up making the laws which will end up governing us, and that is why it is representative. We have sent them to the parliament to make legislations on our behalf. So India is a representative. Now we are also a parliamentary democracy. which means we are following the parliamentary form of government. Essentially, what it means for your understanding right now is that in parliamentary form of government, the executive are responsible to the legislature, which means that, for an example, your cabinet minister or council of minister, they are responsible to the Indian parliament. So if at any time, you must have seen in the television while going through the news, that if any time the legislature feel that the government is not capable of working, they go ahead and do a no confidence vote, and that is such a powerful tool that it could eventually lead to the resignation of government. So that such is the kind of the form of government we have, which is the parliamentary form of government, where it's not like that once you become the prime minister or once you have the form the government by the general election, it's going to be stable for 5 years throughout. No, you have to be responsible to the legislature throughout, and at any time, if the legislation feel that you are the government of the day cannot run properly, they could go ahead and go for the no confidence motion. So this is the idea of representative parliamentary democracy, which is what India as a nation is. Then what are the features which actually make you believe that India is a democracy? So we have universal adult franchise, which means anybody who is above the age of 80 can go ahead and vote. In fact, they have the right to vote. So this is the universal adult franchise. We have periodic elections, so we know that every 5 years we have to conduct election at all the levels, center, state as well as local level. Then we follow the rule of law, which means that the legislation law is something which need to be followed by the citizens of India, and if not, they are liable to be punished by the court. We have independence of judiciary, so we know that the judiciary is separated from the legislature as well as the executive, so we follow the separation of power in case of judiciary. So that is also one of the factor which means that we are a democratic nation. And also the absence of discrimination on certain grounds, that is also been enshrined in our constitution through various articles, that the discrimination should not be allowed on any grounds. So this is something which means that at the very core of it, or very innately, India is a democratic nation. The kind of democracy which is envisioned in India is in fact go beyond the political democracy. So it's not only that we are democratic because we could vote and select our representative, but it is also about social and economic democracy. So we have democracy which goes beyond political, and we have social and economic democracy as well. So we have provision in our constitution which kind of enshrine that too. So this is the kind of nation which India is. As a democratic, we have represented parliamentary democracy. Now let's move forward and talk about the last topic, which is what kind of a nation India should be, or the keyword which define India as a nation is the republic. What is the meaning of republic? Is that India has an elected head as president. So unlike the UK, where you have queen, so you must have heard again there is a queen, prince, princess, and all these kind of privileged class exist over there. India, on the other hand, is a republic because it has a president. He is elected indirectly for a fixed period of 5 years. Now this is important that we don't select president, like unlike the MPs and MLAs for whom we go ahead and vote. It is actually MPs and MLAs who will finally elect the president. So in that way, the election of president is indirect and not direct. And also the president of India has a tenure of 5 years. So he will be the president of India for a period of 5 years, and then the election will again happen. So all these things is essentially means that India is a republic nation because we don't have a monarchy. Republic also means two more things, which is like the vesting of political sovereignty in the people and not in a single individual like king. So the sovereignty we see in the preamble itself, from where the authority was coming, it was from the people. So it is the political sovereignty is rested with the people and not in a king. Also, absence of any privileged class, and hence all public offices be open to every citizen without any discrimination. So in India there is no privileged class. All the public offices are open for every citizen of India without any sort of discrimination. So that is why again, which means India is a republic nation. So in this video we discussed that what kind of character India has, and that has been enshrined in our preamble. So India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic nation. So I hope you have understood everything, and for all the things that I have asked you in this video, I do hope that you put and comment on it. So we will meet in the next video and go ahead with the next of the keywords. Thank you.